Good to see y'all this evening. I'm coming to you live with my good friend Dan Borrero, real estate investor in New York City. What up?
Doing it, brother. Doing it. Admiring your bookcase, man. I can't get over it. It looks awesome, brother. Awesome. I don't know what it cost you, but it's well worth what you paid.
It won't cheap. However, when I saw Pat's joint, I'm like, you know what, man? I need to do something big. When you walk into the house, it's like, boom. We walked to the. Even when I walk into this day, I'm like, man, this is huge. They're 4-foot letters. And I haven't filled it up yet. I got a lot to fill up, but we need to grow. The Haskins people, we need to be growing in this house.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it, brother. Looks great, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dan. So we're here tonight, y'all. Dan and I come live. We actually go live every Sunday on Instagram, but we wanted to open up to the Roundup homies since we are planning a lunch and learn. October 22nd is coming up, and I wanted to just invite y'all tonight officially. The link's in the video description. Dan's coming down to Nationa Harbor in Maryland, DC area, right there in 95, right by the MGM Casino. Dan's going to come down and grace us with his presence. I'm going to come up from Virginia Beach. We're going to be actually staying in a hotel, but we want to invite you guys to come hang out with us for lunch and learn, so you can do some networking, learn real estate investing, figure out your next move. I want Dan to help us put together some action plans for you to finish 2024 with a boom, Dan. Thank you for coming down, brother.
Nah, man. You know what, man? Every time we do these lunch and learns, the currency that I find that satisfies me the most is the people that reach out to us afterwards and tell us about how much further they're pushing their aspirations in their real estate investing as a result of what they learned at the lunch and learn, or the networking that they were able to get and to help them move forward quicker. So
Yeah.
you got to put yourself in a room, people. You got to put yourself in the room.
The four walls is priceless, Dan. I cannot tell you how much I have grown as a human being by sacrificing my dollars and getting training, coaching, and networking, and going in the presence of other multimillionaires, including yourself, man.
Tell everybody how we met, because we're not just preaching to do something. We actually do this. Tell people what we met.
That's right. Dan and I spent a ridiculous amount of money to vote
Ridiculous.
ourselves in to be in this room together.
And we met in one of those rooms in 2019.
That's right.
And Kris and I have worked together, but we've become friends.
Mm-hmm.
We've become friends. Like, there's times I have a question that I know Kris Haskins, that's his field of expertise. I feel honored to be able to pick up the phone and say, Kris, how do I do this?
Yeah.
You know,
same here. So you got to be in the room. You have to
be in the room, people. Be in the room. So we're here. Ask us whatever questions you want. We're here talking about real estate investing, entrepreneurship. Earlier today on the Instagram, we were talking about how do you develop a relationship with money. Not only how do you develop that relationship with money, but why should you have that relationship with money? So if you have any questions in reference to that, another question, Kris. I was at a dinner engagement yesterday for my aunt. She turned 75 years old. And my cousin's daughter was there with her fiance. And, he had asked me how long I've been married. And I was like, 35 years. And he's like, well, how long did you date before you married your wife? And I said, 8 years. And he looked at me like I had two heads. And I said, well, I'm not sure what you're confused about. And he said, 8 years. I said, well, I needed to make sure that she understood being married to me was not easy. Being married to any entrepreneur, it's not easy. So, the message that I'm trying to get across with that is, I don't care who your spouse is. If your spouse is not on the same page as you are with the sacrifices that are going to have to be made to accomplish the goal, something's going to suffer. Your marriage is going to suffer, or your business is going to suffer. But the two of them will not coincide. So have that long discussion with your spouse to be before you get married, to make sure that spouse understands the sacrifices. Would you not say that's a good idea, Kris?
You know, I didn't know we were gonna go here, but I want you to see this big pile of paperwork. This is all my couples therapy. This is I didn't tell you this, but I'm in couples therapy right now, not because I'm like get a divorce or whatever. Because being an entrepreneur, I can foresee the future, and I know that when I first, you know what, the first thing the lady told us, she goes, Chris, did you know that American society is designed for you to get a divorce? It's designed because
Explain that, Chris.
and she's a doctor, she's a psychologist. She's like, let me tell you why.
Share that, brother. Share that. That's huge.
I didn't, you know what? At first, I'm like, yeah, you know, when somebody tells you something, you go, okay, it's cool. But then after that, I thought about it, dude. I'm like, designed to get divorced. She broke it down. She's like, Chris, give me one training you've been to in your entire life that taught you how to stay married. Just give me one. I'm sure she knew that I was going to say, I never been to nothing. So I'm thinking about all the real estate training, all the money management, all the self-directed, subject to lease options, wholesaling, owner finance, all that stuff. I'm like, Chris, you're a master at this, but how much training you had in your marriage? You know, so I had to take a step back and once again remember that there's so much I don't know. The entrepreneur, once again, I do not know. I don't know how to do it. She's like, there's no training, no school class, nothing that our society gives you. We are taught to say, I'm done with this, I'm moving on. Moving on and break it and get it over with. That's what we're taught.
You're so right. So, what would you say is the key prior to getting married to try to avoid that when when someone's going to marry an entrepreneur? What's the best advice you could give that person?
Yeah, you have to number one, be honest, man. But I had to marry somebody that was opposite. You have to have the right person. Like my wife don't want to hear nothing before 9, nothing after 5. Me, my business. She told me that before we got married. I'm like, babe, I work 24 hours a day. I mean, I remember I had a fire one time, one of my units. They called 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, but Dan, I think you have to be able to communicate that because a lot of guys, it's hard to put that stuff in. You know, Dan, I really think people don't even believe something. I think people don't believe how many hours that we put into, and we're quote unquote successful.
Right, right. So I tell people, and I got this saying from Gerald Peters: if you're working 40 hours a week to an entrepreneur, that's a part-time job.
Yeah, that's vacation.
Yeah.
That's vacation.
So so, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody from being self-employed, but we're just trying to sell the truth, which is it's not an easy life either for you nor your spouse.
Mhm.
It's extremely rewarding. Listen, case in point, you see those degrees up there. My last one just graduated from Northeastern, and I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just telling you about how rewarding it is. That's $65,000 a year. That
Wow.
school's a 5-year program.
Sheesh.
My kids, none of my 4 kids have any student debt.
Unreal.
But that's a sacrifice, right? That's the reward. It doesn't come with without a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's something
So,
right there, Dan.
guys, we're not trying to discourage you, but we're just trying to tell you the truth. You have any questions on here, Chris?
Put the questions up, man. I saw some come in. Try to
Can you do a lease option and creative financing for land? Question mark.
Oh man, absolutely. In fact, I would. That's the only way I would do it. That'd be the only way I would do land. Dan, you do land more than me, but I want Dan to chime in. But I'm like,
I
I'm
do land, but I'm the guy who doesn't. I hold the mortgage, so I will
it's the
sell the
same thing.
land and I will hold the mortgage for it. Usually, when people then take that land and go to the bank because they say to the bank, I own this land, I want to build my house on it. The bank will incorporate whatever payment is left to me in with the construction loan, and I get paid out when they get the construction loan because the bank wants to always hold the first position. Otherwise, I'd be the first position, and they don't want to lend if they're not the first position.
Do you sometimes subordinate and take a second position and keep getting that monthly
No,
payment?
I won't do that because if the bank doesn't foreclose, they won't let me foreclose. So I won't take a second position.
Say that again.
So when you take a second position, I'm sure you know this. Probably the audience is why you asked me that. When you take a second position on a mortgage, what happens is You can't foreclose unless the bank allows you to foreclose the first position. So that's why I will never take a second position. Because if that person continues to pay the first mortgage and doesn't pay me, I'm shit out of luck. I can't do anything. And I gotta wait for them to pay off this mortgage 30 years from now to be able to foreclose, then I'm not interested in that.
Let's stay here for a minute, Dan. I always thought, and once again, we're here. Both of us are here to push. Both we're here to learn as well as to teach. So I always thought second position. If you did foreclose, you just had to deal with the first.
No, you gotta deal with the first to foreclose as well because it doesn't go to the courthouse steps until the first mortgagee says yes, okay. Mortgage holder says I'll foreclose with you. But if the first mortgage holder continues to get paid, he's not going to foreclose. They don't care that you didn't get paid.
Well, let me ask you. Say if I am in second position, this is how we did it. I'm in second position. If I do foreclose, let's just think about regarding subject two. I'm still the owner. I foreclosed. Now I'm the owner, right?
You're not well. You know what? You're right because now you just got to continue paying that first mortgagee,
Boom.
the first mortgage holder.
That's my point. So
But
every
but the question becomes, can you evict them?
It's a whole lot around it. We can go all day on the problems of that, but the thing is, you still the owner.
You'll still be the owner, but irregardless,
There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Whole
there's a
bunch of
lot of legalities on the other side of it.
whole
So
lot.
no, I won't. I will not hold. I will not take a. I will not hold a second position. I will not. No.
Long story short, if you're in second position, you better be willing to really put up a fight.
Yeah, and
You get your
you're risking a lot.
Yeah, you get too much risk unless you got like
Case in point, Chase Bank, Santander Bank, a lot of the big banks that suspect that we're going to be heading into a recession got rid of their home equity line product. So if you go to
oh,
Chase
they
to
do
get
it.
a home equity line right now, they're not going to give you a home equity line because they got rid of that product.
I believe it.
So, and why did they get rid of that product? Because all these banks got severely burnt after 2008, holding the second position. So, why in God's name would I take a second position if the big boys are too afraid to take a second position?
Right about
Look,
that. They're scared
I'm
now.
not going to reinvent the wheel. These big banks spend millions and millions of dollars on studying where the market's going and studying their risk. They have actuaries out there, bean counters. This is all they do to
Yep.
minimize their risk. I'm not going to argue against that. I'm going to use I'm going to use their resources without having paid for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. See some here, Dan. All messages. Here we go. Y'all get your questions in. Get your questions in. B, can you get a line of credit with, I guess, after you own that property that you bought subject to?
That's a question for you, Chris.
It's gonna be hard. For some reason, I don't know why these nincompoop banks don't like loaning money to a person on title that's not on the loan. Majority times, no. Now you can get a local lender to do it, but majority of times you're not going to be able to do that. When they do the title search, they're going to see that you're on title, but you're not. What is it? You're not on that loan. So, and they'll see it.
Here's a question here for you, Chris. What should I do if I have a subject to deal that is foreclosing in 2 weeks?
Well, if it's a sweet deal, you better go order that daggone reinstatement figures. Who asked that question? That's from Cliff Mo. If you have a subject to, great question. If you have a subject to deal, go on a foreclosure in 2 weeks. Go get your authorization to release. You download it if you got my documents, or you can get your own. Order the reinstatement figures and see exactly how much it is. If it's too much, you gotta let it go. If it's something you can do, I remember one time I had to bring $50,000 in 3 days to close one. So you never know.
So there's a question here. Same person, actually. Good question. I have a lead that will allow me to do subject to, but they want to turn around and rent to own from me so that they can buy the home back in 3 years, what are your best options? I know what I would say to that, but
I'll
you go,
let
Chris.
Dan start. No, you start on that, Dan. I love it when I see these lease backs.
I would do it. You're buying a headache. Look,
Headache. Shit, you buying a. Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
go ahead, you say it. Go ahead.
No, you buying a disaster.
Tell
I'm
them
gonna tell
why,
y'all.
Chris.
My mentor lost 28,000 doing lease backs because before I get to this one, don't forget October 22nd. Dan and I are going to be in National Harbor, Maryland. Lunch and learn. They show the links in the video description. Come out, network with us. Get your pictures and bring your cameras. Get your video footage. Get your networking on. Okay, Dan and I are going to do a lunch and learn October 22nd live.
And you know what, Chris? Because of the questions we're getting, I think especially on that last live we did on Instagram. Let's cover subject 2, and then you cover the subject 2, and I'll cover the rental side of the business.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay. So I was talking about. I got excited. Release backs. My mentor. I never forget. I feel like it was yesterday. He homeowner calls him for a loan. He goes, I won't do the loan, but I'll what did he do? He sold him the house. Gave the guy 28 grand. He said, you know what, you can stay in the house, lease back from me if you pay me back in 6 months or whatever the terms were. Long story short, the guy didn't pay him back. He hired an attorney, took him to court. Did you know the judge made him deed the house back to the homeowner, Dan?
Yep.
You have to honor the judge or your ass going to jail for contempt. You have to honor the judge, man. It's a court order. The judge made him. I never did know you could do that. He's like, Chris, I lost 28,000 and I spent 8,000 on attorney fees. So in all, he lost like 35 grand. So we never lease back to sellers. For a month or something. I'm not
I
mad.
I don't I don't care what it is. Like, I've done a lot of foreclosures. I've done short sales, and they'll be like, "Well, let's do it so we can stop the foreclosure, and I'll move out next month." Like, yeah, no,
No,
no.
in that instance where there's high stress, you asking for trouble because they ain't got nowhere to go anyway.
They got nowhere to go. And they're like, "Well, if I got the money," I'm like, "Yeah, listen, I'm here to solve this particular problem. I'm not here to solve your entire life's problems."
That's a good
Um,
point, man. That's a good
so
point.
you know, Chris and I pride ourselves in being people of service,
Problem solver.
problem solvers, but it gets to a point where we need to protect ourselves so we don't find ourselves in the same position that they're in, losing their homes, right? So we could only be of service up to a certain point, but once it endangers our financial being, we can no longer be of service. So, there's some people you just can't help.
Can't have them all. But Dan,
Yeah,
I will say not all sellers are created equal. Somebody
no.
going to foreclosure in 2 weeks, different than somebody that's been living in the house for 15 years. So I approach that. If you've been in the house 15 years and I got to close on it and you got to stay a month, now I'm saying for me, I have done that.
But so I look at it's yes, it is different when
It's
they're
a different
selling you the
setup.
house versus getting it out of foreclosure. So I look at it this way: before it was going to the courthouse steps, they had years. The bank
Yeah,
just
they
can't
do.
foreclose on you. It doesn't happen overnight. Depending on which state you're in. If you're in New York, it's taken 3 to 5 years. So you had 5 years to figure this shit out, and you couldn't do it in 5 years. What are you doing differently that I should expect you to figure out in the next 30 days?
Nothing.
It's unrealistic expectations,
Yeah, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna
right?
happen.
And by the
Roundabout
way,
way.
guys, I want everyone here to understand, even if you have a relationship and you developed a relationship with that seller, remember that every relationship has an expiration date.
Wow.
And what I'm about to tell you, it's deep. If you marry, that relationship has an expiration date.
Wow.
Your relationship with your kids, with your father, your friends, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, they all have expiration dates. It's going to be either because of a divorce or a death
Wow.
or you lent money to the wrong person, it became confrontational. Every relationship has an expiration date. So I don't sweat those expiration dates when they come because I understand it's just life.
Wow. That's deep, Dan.
It is, but it's the truth. So, don't sweat those expiration dates.
Round up, make sure to go to the link in the video description. October 22nd, Dan and I are going to be in National Harbor doing a lunch and learn. It's going to cost you a few dollars to vote yourself in the room.
And
Spend a few
guys,
dollars to
but you're
be
gonna
among
eat
women.
well. Because when Chris and I do this, we make sure restaurants serve really good food. Um, yes, there'll be wine and beer available. I don't recommend you be drinking wine and beer. You're there to learn. You want to keep your head on straight. If you want to have a glass of wine, of course, have it. It's part of the lunch. But the reality is, you're there to learn and network, and you want a clear head.
Mm-hmm. So go to the video description to get all the information there. What else we got here, Dan? Get your questions in, y'all. We got Dan Borrero here.
Question here: how do you all feel about rooms for rent? I don't have a problem with them. I like them. You make a lot of money with it. You make more money than you do with regular renting, conventional renting. But it's very transient. You may have to become, the housemaster, where enforcing rules, who about the bathroom use and the kitchen use and all that. I don't do it, especially at this time in my life. I don't want to do it because I want conventional stuff so that things run smoother. Because quality of life to me at this point in my life is more important than money. I'm 60 years old, but if I was 10 years younger, I'd be doing it. Absolutely.
I ain't doing it, man. I had a friend of mine, his weekly rental people of renting by the rooms, they did a coup. Got together and went to they went to court and said they owe him nothing. They dragged this dude out, man, for 6 months, brother. So, and then you got to
Someone's
be.
asked. Someone's asking when we're coming to Atlanta. I don't know, but you should come down to Maryland. We're going to be in Maryland.
That's true. It's only a quick hour ride, plane ride.
So yeah, so they did a coup. And how long did he go without rent?
6 months. He lost the house. They went 6 months. He went without rent. They told the judge he was doing all this stuff, and they told the judge he was renting, all this stuff. He couldn't get rid of him.
And most of it's all lies. Look, I learned a long time ago when I go to housing court, the lawyer's job for the tenant is to make me look like a slum landlord and a liar. And my job is to make the tenant look like they're a liar. But I have the burden of proof. So I am extremely documented. And Chris will tell you. Everything is done via email and certified return receipt. And especially when I suspect I'm going to have a problem with a tenant, I will not speak to that tenant either face to face, on the phone, not even with a text.
It's nothing to
Everything
talk
is
about.
either email or by each certified return receipt. Now, why do I do that? Because there's no longer an argument to what I may have said or what my intent was when I said it, or what my body language was, or was it threatening or physically threatening. It's all in black and white. So there's no longer an argument to what was said. It's an argument of that I do it according to the way the law allows me to do it.
Oh Lord, that's a whole another hill to go up.
Yeah. Any other questions here, Chris, that I don't see?
Yeah, somebody talking about a realtor or something down there, property manager. Roxanne, is it a good idea to have your real estate agent also work as your property manager, Dan?
So I manage my own properties here in New York, New Jersey, and in Florida. But I do have realtors that do all my rentals. I will not do a rental. Absolutely not. For multiple reasons. The primary reason is I want that buffer between myself and the applicant, because the laws are constantly changing as far as housing laws and HUD laws, from not only on the state side and the county sides, but the federal side. And realtors go to school, continuous ed classes at least once a year, and they're being educated on what these new laws are. So they keep me honest and they keep me within the frame of the law. And I don't want to be accused of saying something that I never said. So I have the realtor always involved in the middle of us, in between the application process.
Yeah, you know, I was accused one time of discrimination on this couple. I never forget my. Was I married? Was I married at the time? We married at the time, babe? She ain't listening. You may say something you don't even know you saying it. You don't even know what I don't remember what I said, but she called people and people called me. I'm like, man, I don't know what this lady's talking about. But like Dan's saying, just being accused, you know how it is. If somebody accuse you of something, you could be the most innocent dude in the world, but you still got that accusation. It just looks bad.
Yeah, look, it's extremely inconvenient. That happened to me once. It was about 20 years ago. I was accused of not renting to her because she was a person of color, and you know, the Department of HUD for the state of New York kept busting my chops, and I was so infuriated. And my father was like, "You're taking this personal." You know, what do they want to do? They want to come in and visit each apartment. It was 4 apartment building. And I said, you know what? You're right. So they went to the first apartment. It was a Puerto Rican woman, Dominican husband, with 2 daughters. They go to the second apartment. It was a Panamanian woman with a single mom with a daughter. They go to the third apartment. It's 2 gay white guys. Then they go to the apartment that she accused me of not renting to her because she was a person of color, and it was a black lady with a Puerto Rican man.
You got the motley crew.
Right. So they looked at me and they were like, "Yeah, we're very sorry." And then they sent me a letter of no further action. You know,
That's good.
I was like, I didn't rent her because she didn't qualify for the apartment. She didn't have enough income for the apartment. And let me show you, if you like, these people's applications because I got permission from them to show it. And I said, they
Oh,
qualified. Let me show you how they qualified versus this other woman who did not qualify.
that's
But
crazy.
you know, that probably took over 120, 160 hours of my life to resolve that.
What?
Between all the letters, speaking to the attorneys, scheduling the
Oh
time
my
for them to come and doing their
God.
investigations. Yeah, it was insane.
Oh Lord, they only had a few phone calls from me.
No,
Darn.
it was insanity, man. It was what happens if you get a due on sale clause called, would you ignore it? Would you ignore or and keep paying the loan on time? Question mark.
If I were to get a due on sale clause, the first thing I would do is take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. All right, who asked that? There- Who is that? I gotta
It
hit
just
people's
says
name.
B. It just says B.
Oh, B. B. Put your name in there. B. Okay. First thing is, it's not the end of the world. Okay. B. Second thing is, you have options. You can sell the property, try to refinance it, or get another lender. But the main thing I want you to understand is you can always deed it back to the seller. You can always deed it back to them, y'all. Call them up. Mr. Joe, hey man, we had an issue with the bank. We're gonna put the deed back on your name. Is that cool? Then we'll just do some other paperwork after that later. You can give it back to them, and then you can buy it on a lease option. That way, the deed stays in their name. Okay, so
Yeah,
there's
listen, the reality is
they ain't calling
it's
alone.
gonna take them forever. It's not gonna take them forever, but it's gonna take them a while to
6 to 9 months.
foreclose, and it's gonna be a cost factor. Most banks will probably refinance it for you to your company name or
Mhm.
your trust, whatever that is, because it's cheaper for them because they don't have to get legal involved, right? To do that, as long as you qualify for that mortgage. Number one.
You talking
Number
about go to
two,
the lender and you talking about just go to the lender and ask them to just qualify you.
yeah,
I didn't even think about
exactly.
that, Dan.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Or you could just get the property refinanced. It's going to be a shorter amount of time to get it refinanced than it is to sit there and fight with the bank and let before it goes
Or
to
don't fight
foreclosure.
him. Don't fight with him, man. Just either ask them to put your name on it, or just deed it back to the seller and do a lease option. Same thing.
This is a question for you, Kris. How do you guys feel about wraparound mortgages versus renting as I just lost it.
How do you feel about wraparounds? Oh, he took it back. Oh, BG, what you doing? High Tech Hat wants to know who pays taxes and insurance. I'm presuming on a seller finance deal or lease option.
So when I'm financing property, I want to pay the taxes and insurance. They're going to pay me, and the reason
What's
why
going on?
I want to I do that is to make sure the taxes are paid and the insurance is paid.
What is going on in here? It's just a bug.
Who pays tax and insurance? We answer that. So, guys, next week on Sunday, we're going to be in Maryland. Where we're going to be? National Harbor.
I'm sorry. Well, Dan Borrero, was coming down from New York to Maryland, D.C. area, the National Harbor, right where the big Ferris wheel is, right there by the MGM. I'm coming up from Virginia Beach. We're going to be in the same room together, live, doing some training, talking about all this crazy real estate stuff that has kept us in business. I'm going on 20 years next year. Dan is at 30. How many years you been in, Dan?
1989, man.
So you're in
So
30.
that's 34 years.
So you get 50 years of real estate experience here. Come, we want to help you put an action plan together for you that's going to electrify the end of the year for you. Okay, so it's a lunch and learn. You get free lunch, drinks. The links in the video description will be October 22nd. October 22nd. We're coming in town, Washington, D.C.
Be there, guys. Be there. You know, if for nothing else, for nothing more than to network, you're going to be in the room with like-minded people that are going to maybe, you'll maybe meet your next lender, your next real estate agent, your next broker, your next mortgage advisor, your next contractor, your next partner could be in that room. But you don't know that unless you get yourself in the room. Kris and I spent, Kris says to me that he buys his friends. Tell them what you meant by that, Kris.
I do. I really believe that, man. It's crazy. Even as I get older, the guys are like, look, if you're not willing to spend X amount of dollars and go to an event, I really don't have too much time. And I'm not saying that for y'all to come here, but the guys that are saying, you know what, boom, I'm willing to spend that money. Okay, cool. Maybe we can make some money together.
A. Brown is saying, can I bring potential deals we have? Come to the lunch and learn. Absolutely. We want you to bring deals if you have them and share them with everyone in the room, right? Because the reality is that's part of networking, providing opportunity.
Yeah.
Why not?
Winners. I wouldn't be surprised. And what I'm noticing is a lot of times at your job or your friends or family, you don't necessarily have the sounding board or even the ideas that are coming out of your mouth. They don't quite know how to process them, or they may not even be qualified to do that. So here in this room, people will be qualified to.
Yeah. So Kris and I, we've only done one in Maryland so far. The other ones we've done primarily in New Jersey. We did do one in Florida when we went to Patrick's event, right? But the ones we do in New Jersey get bought out immediately, right? Because we're keeping this to 12 people. That's it. 12 people. That's all we're going to keep this to. And the reason we're keeping it that low is primarily because we want to be able to spend time with everyone. We want to be able to answer everyone's questions. We want to be able to actually personally meet people and have real conversations with people. So it's only going to be 12 people in that lunch and learn. That's it, guys. Don't miss this opportunity.
Yeah. Very rarely do you get Dan and I in the same room. Shit, it's been
I mean, you're going to get us on this screen a lot, but you're not going to get us in the same room very often.
I found out about it. I don't know if I told you I went to see Damon Dash last week.
What'd you think about him?
I mean, I just love watching not him, but just successful, ultra wealthy people. Just their body language, the way they move, the way they react. Little things like that you can pick up and apply to your business.
Yes.
Little things. You got to be in the room though. You can't get that on the screen. Somebody asked a question here. Dan High Tech Hat wants to know how to market a rent to own. Somebody asked that last time.
That's a you question.
Let me show you. I showed y'all that last time. I left my sign in the garage.
Well, you showed that out when we did that. We had the same question asked literally half an hour ago when we were on Instagram Live.
Yep, it's the same thing. So here's my signs. I'll show you. The signs we use right here. This is stuff you're gonna get when you come to the lunch and learn. We're gonna be talking about this stuff. This is the signs we use right here, y'all. No credit. Rent to own. No credit needed right there. But I'm not saying you have to use those, but that's the ones we use. You can write that on there. No credit check. Anytime you got something that's no credit check, your phone's gonna ring off the hook. No credit check. Because I'm gonna
So,
tell you. Go ahead, Dave.
no, go ahead, continue.
So we deal in what we call a blue ocean. So I'm looking for like the people that can't qualify, like for day and stuff. Those are the people I'm looking for. And from my opinion, that's the majority of people. Dan gets the creme, which is cool. We just have different strategies. Dan gets the best tenants. That's why his tenants stay for 9 years. They're great people. So we look for people that have challenged backgrounds.
So there's a question here I want to answer. It says, when are you coming to sunny Florida? I'm in sunny Florida literally every other month. Do you think prices, especially in Florida, will correct? Is it too high and all buyers are, can't read that.
I can't either.
In Florida will correct? Is it too high and are all buyers are buying majority of
Single family homes.
single family homes is a major problem. So I personally think that Florida is going to continue to see an increase in asset
Why?
value
Why say that?
for multiple reasons. And I won't be able to answer all the reasons on this live because I'll be here for an hour. But reason number one, the state of Florida's population last year grew by over 900,000. This year, by the end of 2024, they expect it to grow by 1.2 million.
Oh wow.
Okay, so in 2 years, that's 2.1 million. And when I say grow, that's when they add in all the people that came to the state of Florida to live, subtracted the people that died and the people that left, it's still a gross of 2.1 million people in only 24 months. That's number one.
That's
Number
crazy.
two, DeSantis passed a law that passed in July, that went into effect on July 1st of this year of 2023. And in that law, he says that if you're a migrant or if you're an undocumented worker, the contractor could cost the contractor up to 70,000 per occurrence. So if they catch one person, that's 10,000. Second person's 20. Third person's 30. Fourth person's 40. Fifth person is 50. And then it goes up like that. And then it starts all over again to the following day. So now the contractors are required to go online to a portal and sign everybody up. So when the inspectors come on, if they're not on that list and they're undocumented, not only is the contractor going to get fined, that person's getting locked up. It's opened up also that you could be a migrant and the sheriffs or the deputies or the state police or the city police could just pull you over just because you're walking around in your brown skin and you're getting locked up. Okay, so essentially it's scared the living hell out of all these migrants who now went north. Now there's hardly anybody to do the roofs, pick the fruits and vegetables, paint, do the cement work. Because you're not going to get Americans to go up on a roof at 110 degrees weather to do that roof, right? So because of lack of labor, there was already a lack of labor prior to this law that just exponentially made it worse, all right? There's also a shortage of material because the builders are building like crazy because there's not enough housing. So based on just those three, plus there's other reasons, I don't see the state of Florida seeing a correction in the market anytime soon.
Well, Dan, you're the expert on that, man. You got houses down, you got real estate down there, so you would know.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Not on single family homes. Absolutely not.
All right, Dan, we got 40 minutes in. Let's get out of here, brother. I gotta go.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's tell everybody how they can get the link to our
our Lunch and Learn next. It's gonna be October 22nd, y'all. The link's in the video description. Get signed up. You're gonna be surrounded by winners. And give us a thumbs up. I ain't seen no thumbs. I only got 14 thumbs up down there.
You know what? And give me a follow too on my YouTube channel. I'm not as big as Chris. I'd like to get as big as Chris one day.
Well, that's why we're here together, brother. So give us
All
a
right.
thumbs up. Follow USA Land Ventures on YouTube, and I look forward to meeting you, putting together an action plan for you. It's time. It's your Dan. When someone asks you, "Is it a good time to buy real estate now?" I'm not talking about generally speaking, but what would you say right now?
I tell people I love to buy when interest rates are high. And by the way, these rates are not high. The first property I bought, 1989, was 17.9% interest with 6 points from Greenpoint Savings Bank.
Damn.
So the reality is, when interest rates are high, prices come down. And then
Usually,
when the interest rates comes down and prices go up, that's when I refinance and take my original investment out. Right.
nice.
So, they're just opportunities. If the numbers make sense at 8%, why won't
Make
they
it work.
make percent at 6% when the rates drop?
I had a question too, Dan. I just bought a house 2 weeks ago, and I got a tax bill. The title company was $6,000. The title company missed some back taxes on an acquisition, Dan. How do I handle that with the title company?
Oh, I tell the title company, figure it out, or I'm going to put a claim against your policy. Now, the title companies don't want claims against their policies because then their policy prices go up. The insurance goes up, right, for the errors and omission. So what the first thing they're going to do is go back to the seller and say, seller, you signed this piece of paper saying if there was a problem or an error on our behalf that you would pay us. If the seller doesn't pay, that's irrelevant to you. You're like, I didn't pay the seller. I paid you the title for title insurance. You got to pay, or I'm going to put a claim against your errors and omission, and then they usually pay.
Well, I'm so glad. See, this is why. I never had this happen. I get a
It's
bill every
happened
day.
to me once, and that's how I handled it.
I need to go in there strictly business, right? No friends, no. I need to just talk
No,
straight
look,
face.
the reality is when it happened to me, the person I called was a person named Craig Sherrod, who's since passed. He was not only an attorney, but he was a big real estate investor. He made his money investing in real estate. So it was Craig who told me how to handle it, and I went in there and handled it just like Craig said, and exactly what Craig said was going to happen happened. First thing they say is, "Well, I waited like 2 weeks, and well, the buyer hasn't reached back to me." I said, "That's a you problem." Well, the buyer's giving us difficulty paying us.
Why would
That's
they? Why would a buy? Why would a seller?
I'm sorry, not the buyer, the seller.
Why would a seller? I'm thinking in my mind. I'm gone down the
Because
street.
there are documents when we do closings, and you probably don't realize them anymore because you just sign because we just know what they are already. That says if there's errors in the calculations that we're supposed to be responsible for, they could come back and ask for it, and we agree to pay it. Right,
Seller.
the seller.
Okay.
So now, if I ignore it, the only thing they could do is really sue me, but they still got to pay the buyer. They don't. It doesn't say in their title policy. There's no exceptions that say that we got to wait for the seller to pay the title company for us to get paid. That's what we got a policy for. We paid an insurance policy protecting us against that type of an error.
George channel is USA Land Ventures. Y'all follow Dan. USA Land Ventures is Dan's channel.
Yep. All right, guys. Remember, next week, join us. Only 12 people. Where can they find that link?
The links in the video description for our Lunch and Learn October 22nd. I look forward to meeting my winners there, my roundup homies. Washington, D.C. area, National Harbor. Huh? It's alive again. I'll catch it. All right, y'all. I got this bug.
Take care, everyone. Good night.
Peace.